Vegan Chef AJ is hosting Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn, vegan, who is a renowned cardiologist and author of the book Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. Dr. Esselstyn has conducted extensive research over decades on the benefits of a vegan plant-based diet in preventing and reversing heart disease. Let's get started.
Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Esselstyn. I asked you what recipes you think would be the best for preventing and reversing heart disease.
Whole food, plant-based nutrition.
I'm going to make a delicious sweet potato chili with one of your favorite ingredients.
Kale.
Are all greens good?
Bok choy, Swiss chard, kale, collards, collard green, beet greens, mustard green, turnip greens, Napa cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, cilantro, parsley, spinach, and arugula, and asparagus.
Okay, that's great. This is the Instant Pot. We're going to start with 3 cups of fresh squeezed orange juice, 2 pounds of organic sweet potatoes. I didn't peel these because they're organic and there's a lot of fiber and nutrients in the skin. 3 cups of kidney beans, and you can use canned. I prefer to use salt-free if I use canned, but once you get an electric pressure cooker, you can cook beans very, very quickly. 2 red bell peppers, chopped.
Well, I think it's very exciting what you're doing here, because when you're emphasizing whole food, plant-based nutrition, this is something that people should really start when they're young.
Right.
Because increasingly what we recognize is that, for instance, somebody doesn't wake up at age 65 with a heart attack.
Sure.
They work hard in all those preceding decades to lay the foundation for heart disease. For instance, we know now from autopsy studies of our GIs who died in Korea at an average age of 20. 80% of these young GIs already had gross evidence of coronary disease you could see without a microscope. Not enough for their cardiac event yet. That study was then repeated, actually 45 years later. This time looking at young women and men between the ages of 17 and 34 who had died of accidents, homicides, and suicides. And now the disease is ubiquitous. You graduate from high school in this country, you get a diploma. And then you also get Foundation for Heart Disease. So should it be any great surprise that if you continue to eat this typical Western diet through your 20s and 30s and 40s, now we begin to see these actual clinical cardiac events.
People don't realize that because I guess when they're in teens and the 20s, they're not feeling the symptoms of heart disease.
Correct.
These are fire-roasted, salt-free tomatoes, 2 cans, and the spices. Tablespoon of salt-free chili powder, 2 teaspoons smoked paprika. Smoked makes a difference. And I like it a little spicy, half a teaspoon of chipotle powder. I'm going to put on about 7 minutes. So how important is food to the prevention and reversal of heart disease?
The truth be known, heart disease is nothing more than a toothless paper tiger that need never, ever exist. And if it does exist, it need never, ever progress. This is a completely benign, foodborne illness. It's so important that people recognize that there are certain foods that every time they cross our lips, we take a hit. And it's not a very big one, and the body's very resilient. So any injury we get from this food, you don't really feel it when you're 10 years old, 15 years old, 17, 35. Now, with these accumulated hits, these accumulated injuries, the body begins to lose ground. And then we as physicians define these accumulated hits as maybe hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, strokes, and may even be cancer. And so it's so important, I think, to conceptualize, get across the idea to people that even though they don't feel the injury, there is injury, what are the foods that cause this injury?
It's a food that most Americans are eating most of their calories from, I bet.
Absolutely. For instance, my dad had his first heart attack at age 43. By 63, he was type 2 diabetic. By 69, he had metastatic prostate cancer. My dad was an absolute living fossil of the ravages of Western nutrition. And there are certain foods that are being avoided here today. Foods that injure are, for instance, oil.
Right.
Oil will injure the lining of your artery, whether it's olive oil, corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil, palm oil, oil in a cracker.
People
Oil
believe
in
it's
bread.
such a health food. People believe that olive oil is heart healthy. We don't use any oil at all on this show.
Oil in a salad dressing, so we eliminate oil for these patients. Same thing is true of meat, fish, chicken, turkey, fowl. Animal protein injures endothelial cells. The innermost lining of our artery is a magic layer, one cell layer thick, and that's called the endothelium. And the endothelium is really the life jacket and the guardian of our blood vessels, because it manufactures an absolutely magic molecule of gas that has marvelous functions that protect our blood vessels. What are the functions of nitric oxide? Keeps all those cellular elements in our bloodstream flowing smoothly like Teflon rather than Velcro. Number two, nitric oxide is the strongest vasodilator in the body. When you climb stairs, the arteries to your heart, the arteries to your legs widen, they dilate. Number three, nitric oxide prevents the wall of the artery from becoming thickened, stiff, or inflamed, protects you from getting high blood pressure, hypertension. And number four, most important, an adequate, safe amount of nitric oxide protects you from ever making blockages or plaque. So really everybody who has cardiovascular disease in this country has so destroyed and injured and compromised the capacity of their endothelial cells to make nitric oxide, they don't have enough to protect themselves. And the exciting thing is, this is not cancer.
Right.
So when you get people to really understand this and they stop the foods that are injuring their endothelial cells, back comes the nitric oxide. The disease is halted and fascinatingly, many times, reversed.
Dr. Esselstyn, you mentioned that heart disease has already manifested in very young people, but they don't seem to have symptoms yet. How do we get them to be excited about changing their diet to prevent heart disease?
Well, I think they ought to be told about the outcomes that we have in research, for one thing. They ought to be fully aware of the fact that if they don't change, here's what they're going to see coming down the pike for them. Often you can get the boys to begin interested when you understand
I know
that erectile dysfunction is caused by this typical American diet.
Well, that sure makes me want to eat better. We're going to show you a great clip of Dr. Esselstyn from the documentary Forks Over Knives.
Despite the apparent success of the dietary approach, some critics say eating this way is extreme.
Now, with the Western diet, this guarantees there are going to be, what, 500,000 people in this country this year who will have to have the front half of their body divided, their heart exposed, then veins will be taken from their leg and sewed on their heart. Some people would call that extreme.
Dr. Esselstyn has now successfully treated over 250 patients with heart disease, using almost exclusively a whole foods, plant-based diet.
Heart disease, as far as I'm concerned, is an absolutely toothless paper tiger that need never, ever exist. And if it does exist, it need never, ever progress.
Welcome back to our show, Vegans, Chef AJ and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Vegan Recipes to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, Part 1 of 2.
I'm back in the kitchen with Dr. Esselstyn, and we're now going to make something from his book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, the Revolutionary Scientifically Proven Nutrition-Based Cure. The recipes in this book are delicious, by the way.
I have to thank my wife for that.
They are so good. So we're going to make one of my favorite recipes, the beet soup.
Oh,
You like that one?
terrific.
Okay, so we're going to use the Vitamix blender. Makes it so Well, wait a minute. You know what that beep means?
Something else is ready.
That's right. The chili that we made earlier is ready. To release the pressure on this Instant Pot, you just push the flame out like that. We're starting with some beets. These have already been cooked. 6 beets. How are these for your endothelial?
They're nitrates. When they mix with your mouth bacteria that come out of your tongue, those bacteria reduce the nitrates in your mouth to nitrites. You swallow the nitrites, and your gastric acid reduces the nitrites further to nitric oxide, which is what we want.
Right.
That's the magic molecule that protects us, because as you get to be older, over 50, your usual endothelial cells now are only making 50% of the nitric oxide they can make when you were 25. That doesn't mean that the old carcasses let you down, because with chewing nitrates, gastric acid.
No pill for nitrates, right? You got to get it from the food.
Not in our practice.
Right. 2 oranges that I've peeled, zest from 1 lemon, about 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, and one of my favorite ingredients, fresh mint. So we're putting it all in the Vitamix. We're just going to blend that up. So this is such a beautiful color. And it smells, oh, look at this. Like to garnish with a little fresh mint. Is this what it looks like at home? Let's just see if this is what it tastes like at home.
Okay.
I'm sure Anne's is better, but this is her recipe. This is beautiful.
You got it.
Thank you.
Ingredients. For all ingredients, please use organic versions if available. For the sweet potato chili with kale, the ingredients are 2 pounds or 900 grams of diced sweet potatoes, 2 15-ounce cans or 3 cups of kidney beans, 2 red bell peppers, seeded and finely diced, 2 14.5-ounce cans or 820 grams of salt-free fire-roasted tomatoes, 1 tablespoon of salt-free chili powder, 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of chipotle powder, 8 ounce or 226 grams of Jacinto kale, 3 cups of orange juice. For the beet soup, the ingredients are 6 cooked beets, 2 peeled oranges, zest of 1 lemon, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, fresh mint to taste. We are grateful to Unchained TV, an online TV channel that promotes a compassionate vegan lifestyle and raises awareness of animal people rights, and its founder, Miss Jane Velez-Mitchell, vegan, a Shining World Vegan Journalist Award recipient, for giving us the opportunity to translate this show into various languages and share it with the world. For more information about Vegan Chef AJ, please visit chefaj.com. For more information about Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, vegan, and his heart disease program, please visit dresselstyn.com. For more information about Unchained TV, please visit unchainedtv.com.
Veganism. Let's join this ism.
Respected viewers, thank you for joining us on our show today. Please join us next Sunday, June 9th, for part 2. We'll learn more helpful information about how to prevent and reverse heart disease from Chef AJ and Dr. Esselstyn, both vegans.